In 1987, director Gus Van Sant gained acclaim with his feature film Mala Noche. Made for $25,000 from his own savings account, it won the LA Film Critics Award for Best Independent Film. After his next two films, Drugstore Cowboy and My Own Private Idaho, the New Yorker magazine called Van Sant one of the few really original talents to emerge from American movies in the 80s. To Die For, his new film, written by Buck Henry and starring Nicole Kidman, is a dark comedy about a small-town girl obsessed with becoming a media celebrity. And we're very pleased to have Gus Van Sant on this broadcast for the first time. Welcome. Great to have you here. Tell me about this project, and because well, go ahead, tell me about it.
Well, Joyce Maynard wrote the book To Die For, which was, I think a few years ago it came out, and it used somewhat the Pamela Smart case, which was one of the first, I think, international press stories, you know, to sort of inundate all this, you know, different kinds of coverage, magazine and TV and National Enquirer news. So it kind of influenced, I think, her story, which was not specifically the Pamela Smart case. It was somewhat, you know, a story that she made up during the same period that trial was going on. And it came to my attention as a book through a producer named Laura Ziskin, and also Buck Henry was invited to write the screenplay, whom I had known, and we had pitched some stories around town in Hollywood for a while, not getting anything going. So we said, okay, we'll do it. And Buck wrote the screenplay, and it turned out great. The screenplay was great.
It different for you than the kind of stuff you had done before? I mean, everybody has always talked about you from your Oregon location, doing films about, quote, low life, and doing films about sort of, you know, whether Drugstore Cowboy or My Private Idaho, about two male hustlers, and Drugstore Cowboy about an addict and his friends. The whole sense of you having a great, although not from there, but having a sense of street life and a sense of the dark side of life. Was this taking off in a different direction?
Yeah, this is more, say, from the sort of town that I grew up in, a small town in Connecticut of, you know, population about 12,000 people, and the social structure of a town like that. The upper middle class, the middle class, and the lower middle class. And the films I'd made prior to this, you know, the Mala Noche and Drugstore in Idaho, were all films that, for, you know, at the time I was interested in, and were perhaps originally generated by the fact that the street stories you didn't really have to spend too much money on. If you just went down onto the street, there was a lot of
you could find the grit
stuff
and photograph it. Yeah.
Whereas if you made a story like To Die For, just to get into some of the places that it takes place, like a mall or something like that, just costs money. So those films are always designed to be less money.
Was it a hard sell for Nicole Kidman?
No, she was very interested because of the subject. She was extremely interested in the type of story that it was. And it was a very rich part. The screenplay, the lead character in the screenplay was extremely well written, so she was quite interested.
Right. Set up this clip, To Die For. This is the plastic surgeon bit.
Right. Well, we haven't really gotten to know the lead character yet and what she's about. And here she's talking about things that she wants to do in the future as a on-camera television personality or journalist. And she's meeting her future sister-in-law for the first time, and her future husband.
All right. Roll tape. Here it is. After Drugstore Cowboy, you hit, and everybody was saying wonderful things. I mean, they were saying you know, incredible things about you, as I referred to one quote in the introduction. What was that like in terms of trying to live up to everybody else's expectation of you as sort of the best new independent filmmaker in the country, and everybody take notice of who Gus Van Sant was?
At the time?
Yeah.
Well, for me, it wasn't so much to live up to, it was to take advantage of. And so what I did was I took my toughest screenplay and thought, well, if there's a time that I can actually get this done, it's now. And so I did My Own Private Idaho, which was sort of an anti-living up to people's expectations. Although, you know, to me, that was a really beautiful story and one I wanted to tell. So
why did you want to tell that story? The story
it was a story that I had been writing for 15 years, for a long time, since I lived in Hollywood. It was really originally set in Hollywood, on Hollywood Boulevard, about people that I would see on the street as I, you know, had lunch every day on Hollywood Boulevard. So I wanted, I mean, for me it was a very closed you know, setting for characters to exist on, just a street and a shop and a motel room. And it was, because it was about male street prostitutes, it was something that people just did not want to touch.
That's what I was going to say. The studio executives did not rush in to make a film.
But I could get,
male
you know,
hustlers.
a smaller company interested in it through Drugstore Cowboy. So for me, it was an opportunity, and I wasn't so much too concerned about living up to an expectation, because I figured at the time that, you know, people have different expectations. It's hard to actually pick one and live up to it.
Yeah. Any desire to make big, you know, big budget films?
I have a desire to make them. So far in my career, I haven't really had a need to have that much money for my budget, because I suppose the subject has always been something confined.
Small focus.
Small focus enough that you could make it for almost any amount. But if it were something larger, I think it would just be, it would be probably, I imagine, the same operation, just bigger, you know, more space, more extras, more stuff that costs money.
Let's take a look. To Die For. This is, I love this song. Set it up for me.
The song, the song is Lynyrd Skynyrd, Sweet Home Alabama.
All right,
and,
go ahead.
This is a scene between Jimmy and Suzanne, and Jimmy's played by Joaquin Phoenix.
Okay. Roll tape. Here it is.
Listen, Meadow, you're the best thing that ever happened to me.
I can't do this anymore.
What?
I can't go home every night and have him trying to touch me. And all the time I'm just thinking about you. About us. And when I push him away, he has this temper.
What do you mean? Does he hurt you? Oh.
There were these women, you know, on the Sally Jesse Raphael show the other day. And they were all wearing disguises so that their husbands couldn't find them, and they were living in shelters, and I thought I could go.
Does it get easier when you have bigger budgets, or does it get more difficult?
For me, unless I'm involved with the production side, it gets the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same. But you do have, there are things that you tend to be able to do. You can afford, you can just pick locations that would perhaps be expensive, you know, or rally a bunch of extras that would be expensive. But it's essentially the same.
What do you think of Kids?
It was great. I had some. I did some work.
You were the
on
executive producer.
Yeah, so I have to say that I liked it. No, I loved it. I was really, I think, one of the best films ever made.
Do you really?
Yeah.
One of the best films ever made.
Yeah, I think so.
Why?
Well, judging from when I saw it, I just reacted. I didn't quite know how to react.
Yeah.
You know, I was confused, and it took me a whole day to figure out that it was a good movie. And anything that'll, you know, put you back that far is that powerful. And that new an expression was almost like catching a cold than watching a movie. That you know, I just thought this has got to be it.
Yeah. We tried to get the director to come on, and he was away and out of here, and you know, in order to talk about it, because it created so much controversy when it first came out, you know, including I think a cover story in New York Magazine, maybe here at the time. What's next for you?
Well, I've written a novel called Pink. And
what's Pink about?
Pink is about traveling in other dimensions and filmmakers.
Yeah. To Die For is the film. Gus Van Sant, the film director. We'll be right back. Stay with us.